and clearly we're rolling on it, and some of it is just everyday stuff, but Councilmember Anderson's correct. If you let the everyday stuff go, then you have bigger problems, and then you have to add something more major to your list. So that's a good thing, and I think this body, Mr. Baker and his administration is sound in place at this point, thank God, right? Like, we finally have some stability here at City Hall, and we have some exceptional people who come to work and want to do their best for our community, and that's a really good thing. And the reason I think a lot of these things are really basic is because some of the basic stuff was being missed, not completely, but it was just a way for him in his leadership style to say, I got this, we're doing this, our team is working on it. And it was just a roadmap for everyone to kind of check in. So I think giving him the opportunity to continue to let us know what's going well, and then also for us to identify things that perhaps might be slipped up in the process here, but to also identify things that are priorities, because there are certain things that are going to be priorities that this body is going to want to address, but at least to give them credit for doing the things they've been doing and for creating a sound base to build on for the future. And I think that's what's happening and has been happening.
Yeah, and as far as for blight, I certainly want to see it on a list. I want to see that we're having, and this is a measurable, right? There may be some other aspect to blight that we may want to take a look at. But again, I don't want to necessarily go in and micromanage that aspect of it, right? If it's an issue that comes up that's presented to us that we need to address, certainly we can put it on the list at that point. But I'm happy with the, with the direction that we've been going. And I like this as a clear presentation on what's been achieved so far.
I would counter that the blight issue, the 386 code violations is measured against what? Is that more or less than we had before? Is that, were they resolved, were they contested? Like, it's just a number out there. It doesn't mean anything unless you measure. So it's not measurable unless we know whether we resolved more issues than we did in the past, we resolved less, maybe we hit 500 before. So I think that, like, some of these things, the 8 building permits, that's great. Was that more or less than before? And what role did he play in making sure that those permits happened? And I'm not being critical. I'm just saying that if we're going to have some real measurable, tangible goals here, they have to be measurable and tangible. We can't just throw stuff out there that, 386, so what? Was it 400 before, 500 before, 600 before when we had the revolving door? Was that more or less or the same? Measurable isn't just a number. It's a number as compared to something else. That's what makes it measurable.
So they're establishing a baseline, if nothing else, right? So that's what we can create. We can consider this as a baseline moving forward, which is a good thing.
But that's not a successful achievement then. That's an establishment of a baseline to which you will then measure against and declare achievement, is what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that you did a bad job. I'm just saying that
greater context in comparison.
Right,
I agree. I can
right.
agree with your point, but that's the part of this here is we have 3 people that were on the body, 2 new ones that weren't part of this process, and so you providing that context, I think, adds value to the conversation. So in a few months' time, when we do this again, I can provide that context.
Well, see, that's why I want to do this again in January. And frankly, I'd rather start from scratch and say, listen, these are the goals we need before the budget process begins. These are the things that we want to see above and beyond the normal everyday. If we want to include the normal everyday, that's fine. But we need to, talk about the things we want to see achieved over the next year or 2 or 3 or 10. And if we don't, then it's our fault. So
I don't think there's any objection to adding additional goals. Sure, we can have this discussion.
Well, you do have an evaluation tool that was approved, and it actually says 5 goals, but because this was such a contentious undertaking, I was like, I'll take on the 6th goal and just keep it moving. So, I would take some issue with, we can hear these ideas and concerns out, but I think changing this lacks continuity for the staff, for the fiscal year, and for the evaluation.
So if we were to take the existing goals, the existing 6 goals, which are deepen sense of place and community identity, Foster an engaged and informed community, cultivate organizational excellence, provide efficient and resilient government, ensure a safe and comfortable environment for everyone, and encourage environmentally sustainable practices. If we were to maintain those 6 topics and provide more, would you be comfortable adding more direction underneath those 6, moving forward for the next 6 months? Or till we get to the budget season and we would naturally do this again?
As Mr. Raker said, his evaluation is based on 5 goals, apparently. And so with these 5 or 6 goals we have here, I find no way to measure his performance. Deepened sense of place and community identity. It's more of a mission statement. It's more of a, it's intangible.
So what, can you give
To
us an
me,
example of what's
to me,
tangible?
To me, an example of a goal would be prepare a comprehensive and coordinated plan to address roads, sewers, and water mains within the city, such that all roads are at a fair or better level. Sewers can handle rain rates of something per hour, and water main breaks 1 or less per calendar year by the year 2035. Coordinated means the plan should address water mains and sewer sections simultaneously when roads are repaired. Multiple funding sources and options should be presented to the council for consideration. To me, this is the kind of concrete, achievable thing that Mr. Raker and his staff could work on. He may have to go through and say, well, we're going to have to hire an engineer and a planner to do some of this, and that's fine, and bring it back to us, and heck, I'd probably approve that right now. But these are the things we need to move forward on. And I have heard in the past that Mr. Raker has been working on such a plan already. So it really shouldn't be too difficult. These are the kind of goals I would like to see.
And if I could just toggle off of that, I know that, Mr. Riker, you expressed concern about us giving you a to-do list, and I think what he just described there, you can do that however you want, but that's the ultimate output that we are looking for, things like that. Like, like you said, hire a contractor, get a magic genie, whatever it takes to get it done. I don't care. I don't know how to do it. That's your job, but these are tangible things that we are looking to have accomplished within a period of time.
Sure.
Agreed. And we've been discussing them for 2 years. They've not been progressing at the speed we wanted them to, but they have been proceeding. The original AEW report that was put out some years ago had a 5-year capital improvement plan. Mr. Raker's plan has been basically following that. He's partially executed it. He intends to execute more of it this upcoming year. And if we'd have gotten the $5 million grant from the state, it'd be virtually complete. That said, I think Mr. Raker does owe us more specificity, not just for the 5-year plan that we'll say he inherited, but going forward to something more comprehensive. That said, and again, Councilmember Binkowski was obviously thinking very clearly in determining how we wanted to state this, which is great. So we can take all that and we can either make a 6th goal, or we can subsume that in one of these other things, such as public safety, community, something like that. So I think we all acknowledge we want this. It's a question of how we define it on paper.
Well, and I think just to toggle off what you said, the plan can't exist in his head, right? We need to be able to pass it out, see it. It needs to be tangible. It needs to be written. We need to communicate it because you hear it all the time. I know you do. We hear it all the time. Everyone hears it all the time. Mm-hmm. What's going on with the roads? We want to bring people with kids into the community so that their kids can ride their bikes, and not that their bikes break on the roads all the time. It's a real thing. So we need to be able to. It needs to be distributable, post on the website, post on Facebook, all these things that we need to be. They can't just be, we need to be transparent and have something that everyone can see so that the community, when they look at the council and they look at the city manager, they can say, oh, look look, great, he's doing great stuff. Let's keep him to make sure he doesn't get mad. Or, let's keep going the path we're going down, and we don't have the collateral now to do that. And that's what we need to have, is the collateral to do that.
So, if I may, Mayor?
Sure.
So, you've all have received the capital improvement plan that never saw the light of day in August of 2021 for various, whether you want to say it was good, bad, or indifferent. It didn't see the light of day because of council's actions or inactions, okay? I've been working to correct that since I've been here, and we are working within the capital improvements plan. I've also shared with you that we need to update that capital improvement plan that is now outdated, because it's probably about another $22 million in costs, if not more. So that is underway and is part, and I think I explained this in one of my Friday reports as to what needs to be coming down the pike. So this stuff has all been in play, and as much as you would like to have a definitive plan for the next 5, 10, 20 years, I had to get projects going to win the trust and goodwill of the electorate around here, and that's why we did the miscellaneous concrete. That's why we got on the CIP. But to have a plan, you have to realize that there's a $177 million in capital improvement needs. Our ability to borrow is at $45 million. How does the math work out? It doesn't. And so those are the conversations that we have to have once I have that CIP presentation that never saw the light of day because of council in 2021. So that is being updated, and until then, I've been doing what we can with what we have when we can.
So that's a great example of another goal, is to have that plan that's 2 years old see the light of day. And the only one who has the control over that, with all due respect, is you, right?
My
It's
point
your,
is it's
it's your
outdated.
job. It's your, so then redo it. Don't keep pointing
Inform me
back
that
to
we
it.
already- okay.
But don't keep pointing back to it, right? Because the only one who can have the capital improvement project plan be approved is for you to bring it forth, right, to us? Because we can't do it. I can't rewrite the capital improvement plan. No one on this dais can. The only person who can do that
And it's
is
being
you.
done. And it's being done. And it's being executed.
Great, let's make that a goal.
Yeah,
Then talk to your colleagues and convince them.
if that capital improvement plan will meet the kind of things I just said, as you just
At
said
this
it
point in time, it
would,
doesn't.
okay. See, therefore, I'm trying to provide direction of what I would like to see out of that capital improvement plan. That way, when you do bring it, it's going to make me happy. It's hopefully going to make the whole community happy. And once we bring it here, then we can approve it and move on with how we're going to fund it. What are we going to, do we need to go to a vote? What kind of grants can we get? Right now, I just want to stop, okay, we've got a little money here, so we'll fix this road. Oh, we got a little money here, so we'll go do this. We need to have a plan. And if we don't have a plan, then we're just kind of flying blind.
Well, there is a plan. It's not fair to say that, because there is a plan that any project that's been done to date has been used off of, right? The PACER studies have been done since Susan and I came. They've been done twice, I think. And although every time they do them, the roads may be a little bit different, that's what they utilize, unless I'm wrong, to fix the roads and to figure out what's going to take place, right? So we have budgeting constraints, and we have the most deplorable roads at a time, right? So that's how it's done. That's how it's been done. It's not like they just go and throw a dart at something and go, okay, Darby Court is first, Dreon is second, Selfridge is third. Like, that's not how it's happening.
The PACER reports aren't a plan on how to accomplish it. The PACER reports are a roadmap of what needs to be done.
Exactly, but they're being utilized to help make that plan. And now I'll agree with you. I would love to see something in writing too that shows, if we were to get this, this, and this is what we're going to be doing next. And to Mr. Baker's credit, that is in place in some, there is a form of that, and I know you guys want to see something bigger. We all want to see something bigger. To say that there's nothing is not fair, and to say that it's arbitrary is not fair, because it isn't. That's all.
And to say there's no plan is not fair.
Can I see the plan? Where's the plan?
Here it is.
That's not a plan of when we're going to do anything.
Absolutely. It's a 5-year capital improvement.
How are we paying
plan.
for that?
Well, he pulled $2.5 million out of
How are we
our
paying for
general-
the 5 years? Where's the plan for how we're paying for 5 years?
Well, that's what we have to figure out together.
That's
He
the
can't do it by
point.
himself. He has no
That's
money.
the point.
He has to get it from the taxpayers,
the
who have to get it from a millage,
And I've
which
been
comes from
saying
us.
that, Council Pro Tem, I've been saying that since I interviewed for this job, and there has to be a process in order, there's more there's science and art in this, and part of it is maintaining the confidence of the electorate. And that's why when I came here, I asked everybody that when we had meet the candidates for city manager, after the first one went by, I was like, you know what, I have to ask people about a special tax. Hey, would you support that? If they were all open-minded to it, or yes, I would support that because things are so bad. I came in and I've said that, and that's, in order to do that, you're right, there has to be greater context. I've been saying that it will be on the ballot in November of '24.
Yeah.
There's things that have to happen along the way, but I can't just not do anything while that plan is being developed.
And that's great that you did those projects. I'm not begrudging you that. I'm not belittling that. The fact of the matter is, though, we keep hearing it's a big number, $175 million. How are we going to get all of that done? What are we going to put on the ballot? What does that look like? What
That's
do we
being
think?
developed.
I know, and that's,
Okay,
we need the
please,
roadmap
acquiesce.
of how that's being developed.
but that's all I'm asking. You say it's being developed, and I'm saying, well, put that on the goal as what you're going to do. And so you're already working on it. We just want to add it to the list of things you're going to do.
Sure, and I think we can incorporate that into one of the goals already, right? So ensure a safe and comfortable environment for everyone. That could be probably renamed a little bit, because I think we've got some other items that are on here that go into infrastructure, right? But at the same time, this is more broad, the CIP is more specific. And I think we need to have that discussion regarding this specificity. Can I get that out right?
You did a very good job, way better than I did.
Right, that we have that discussion, right? But this is more broad-based. That encompasses this. I get the fact that we need to have measurables. That's part of the CIP, right? Here we have what we've identified clearly and what we think of the budget is. Okay, now how do we go and get it? The discussion has been going on for over a year on when is the appropriate time and how do we get that money in order to try to fund these things. We tried to go out and get the legislature to do that. We know how badly that failed from our representatives, right? So the next part of that plan is to either go into the appropriations room up in Lansing and knock on the door and say, we need our money, but that's not a plan, right? So, but we don't have enough in order to cover everything that we want to do right now.
When you have stuff you need done on your house, what do?
I have a 5-year plan in order to get that accomplished, which is part
Exactly.
of what the CIP is.
Exactly. And that's all we're asking for, is a plan to accomplish all of the things that need to be done, knowing that it's a living, breathing document. And that's the objective that Councilmember Binkowski wrote, had an end date of 2035. That's like
It's 10 years.
11, really.
Yeah.
But 11 years away, right?
Yeah, okay,
Much
fair enough.
longer.
No, but those are the types of tangible things that shows that we're taking these projects seriously. Because when you have stuff that needs to be done and you work a little bit on this, but you forget about that, we need to look at the whole big picture. These things are important.
So the good news is, we all agree about the same thing here. And also the good news is that some of this stuff is in play, and you guys just haven't been privy to the conversations because you haven't been here. Well, Susan, just go back, you would know what is there and what isn't there. So we're not as bleak as it's sounding because we have.
We didn't have a CIP prior to 2021,
But that's
right?
part of the point. So Joe Blow, out in the community, who doesn't come to the council meetings and doesn't watch them on YouTube, how do we tell him that we're being good fiduciaries of his tax dollars and we're going to take care of the things that they're concerned about? How do we show them that? We can't say, oh, you have to go back and watch every council meeting and read the minutes. We need to be able to say, look, we're doing this. This is what we're doing with your tax dollars. This is us listening to your concerns. Thank you for shopping.
No, I totally agree. And for instance, you walk doors when you run for this office. At least I did. Folks on Kenilworth and Dreon, the road's a nightmare there, an absolute nightmare. And I cannot find anything to tell them when their road will be fixed. And wouldn't it be nice if we had this comprehensive plan, so I can say, look, your road is scheduled in 2025. Oh, and by the way, we're gonna replace the water mains and the sewers at the same time. So yay, then we won't have to be back. That's all I'm looking for, and that's what and frankly, I think that's what our residents want and deserve.
And if I may, Mr. Raker, you said the plan is being developed.
That end plan is exactly what we'd like to have, so that we can say, hey, yes, will you consider, especially when we go out for a potential, millage, special millage for infrastructure, yeah, when is Dreon going to be addressed? When is, you name it.
Sure.
That level of fidelity is what we would like to have. But I mean, there are a lot of moving parts. I mean, in whether it's grants, whether it's labor, whether it's material, whether it's, you name it, when we battled through them to get the one project that we did get done. And we're still making progress on the other projects. These projects don't happen overnight. They actually straddle a couple fiscal years in some instances.
Absolutely.
If I may, we did have a street list,
We did.
right? And the fact that we just ran into a number of issues with inflation and materials and just the scope of the project itself, right? Not to mention money, right? And so but that was specified, right? So we still have Red Route that's supposed to be as part of that list of streets, right? We've got the Washington and Broadacre that's already been laid out.
But
So,
then, if I can, to your
Yeah,
point,
absolutely,
real quick,
yeah.
Mayor, we've also been nimble enough to respond to opportunities with our neighbors. So Rochester Road Diet that Royal Oak has approached us with Troy, with, help me out here,
with Royal Oak?
Royal-
Over
no,
Batter?
Pardon me?
Batter, is that what the?
Pardon me, Batter, thank you.
Batter,
With
Troy.
Batter. So those two were opportunities they were just opportunities to collaborate with our neighbors. And so that took time and effort to factor that in. And that's to get the best bang for the buck for our taxpaying dollar in cooperation with our neighbors.
And agreed. I said it would be a living document, right? But it needs to be, just with Councilmember Shepherd's, his 5-year plan, you got it all planned out, you know what you're going to do, but oops, a pipe bursts, and so you have to adjust and move things around. And that's absolutely acceptable. It's expected, right? Because that's how life goes, right? That's just how things happen. But having a plan in your head or wherever, it doesn't win the confidence, it doesn't show we're good fiduciaries in the money, and to your point, you said the same thing. There's no way that we can go to the citizens of this community and ask them for more money unless we can prove that we're gonna be good fiduciaries, that we have it all outlined on how we're gonna wanna spend it.
Precisely.
Right, so that's why,
That's why I'm saying it's forthcoming, and I've been saying that. I've also been working on projects to maintain the public's trust. I can't sit back and just do nothing.
good, let's make that a goal then. We all seem to be saying the same thing at this point. Let's make that a tangible goal.
You're not going to get that tangible, by June? I don't think so.
No,
Maybe
no,
it's
no,
close.
I didn't say by June. I said this year.
Here's my point to what Councilmember Bankowski is doing is we're coming off the continuity of these established goals, the evaluation that's been adopted in conjunction with the execution of this year's.
And my point is, the goals should be set before the budget. And
They will be this year.
Okay, well, so why not just call these, call it a day and start with our new goals? And start with a new project session and set some new goals for the city.
Or how about as a compromise, we keep these goals, but we start with new objectives? Because these goals aren't bad, and anything that we want done can be smooshed into these goals, right? But how about we come with fresh objectives to be achieved?
Then hit reset on it. I mean, I'm not gonna hold you, I honestly, I'm not gonna hold you to these goals when we review you this year, because frankly, I find them hard to hold you to these goals anyways, because they're mostly immeasurable, and that's okay, I mean, it's a direction, But, you know, so don't think that, we're gonna suddenly say, oh, our 5 new goals and then, our other goals, we're all gonna hold you responsible to this. No, we're gonna hold you responsible to what we come up with as a body.
But the body came up with these, and it's established, and even though a new body comes in, can adjust and redirect, that's what new bodies do, all the existing stuff doesn't just go away, unless the body, the body determines that that should happen. So that's just a point that has to be made, and you had your hand up.
Oh, yeah, for example, I mean, yes, I want some capital improvements to the infrastructure, but if he does that and suddenly we have blight in the downtown, I would consider that a bad exchange. So yes, he still needs to maintain the squishy goals such as that while going forward with, I think we're all getting at the same thing here, all right? And I think obviously the infrastructure is the overarching issue that's just jumped in the conversation. So that said, if I could, Mr. Raker, you said your plan for infrastructure is being formulated.
So right now, AEW is going back to the drawing board on that specific document. And then I've been meeting with the finance director, Mark Pollock, to what is the best way, what is actually palatable to the voter to support. I mean, you have roughly $45 million in debt that you can incur, which we wouldn't do that, but you have $177 million in needs. How are you going to get the voters to support a palatable millage? I mean, where 3 mills is only going to generate you $1.4 million. That's the extent of the complication of this situation, and you're trying to, I feel you're both oversimplifying this situation.
Of that $177 million worth of improvements that we need, is it the list, which I know you have, right? Because you've talked about it. How much of that is dire? Because we can't hit it all at once. There's
Right,
no way we're
absolutely.
going to hit it all at once.
Right.
So having that information, and even in the information that you have, because I know you have it, if you could provide that to this
I have.
body. Okay, perfect.
When they were onboarded, I provided both of them with
Okay, so that's
information.
what gives people confidence, right? Is to know that there is something that's tangible. And we all understand that the world we're living in, costs are not probably going to come down. Manpower costs are not going to come down. So whatever cost we associate today into 2024, by the time we get to something in 2035, the costs are going to be crazy. But we have to continue to ensure that we address our most critical needs first. And I think that will give everyone more confidence to know that those have been addressed and that that's where we're beginning. And then how much money will we actually need for critical as of today, and what critical may be 5 years down the pike.
And clearly define what we call critical. I think that's important, right? So when we pick the streets, I mean, like you mentioned, Dreon School, Kenilworth are the horrific streets. How are we saying, okay, we're going to prioritize the streets because they weren't done when the couple of projects were done, right? How are we going to prioritize and define what's critical, and that list that you have, why is one above the other? I mean, that needs to be clear and transparent. Everyone needs to understand that, and that needs to be part of what we tell the community as well.
And the projects that were done this past fall or spring, whenever they were done based on size and cost.
Based on-
what we had, right? Like what we could spend.
There were several factors, like
Yeah.
Selfridge, I mean, it was the amount of cars that went through there, whether or not there were additional utilities that had to be. One of the reasons why Dreon wasn't getting the attention that it desperately needs is because there's additional utilities that need to be worked in there. And when we have a small budget like we have, that doesn't, it'll take 2 years worth of if not more, of saving for that. And so, now I've only been here 20 months, so, I mean, we've just kind of really gotten momentum going on this conversation and getting things done around here, or at least some progress done around here. So, I mean, it's much more complicated and ominous as far as the need and the amount of money that you can extract from the tax base.
Let's don't lose sight, too, that no one was predicting or could have predicted the scale of inflation that occurred in 2022. That really pushed back the clock on a lot of that project.
We did.
I mean, let's be honest, $170 million, you look at that and you go, how do I do that? Well, the answer is, we're really not going to do the whole thing. This is it took years to get into this problem. It will take years to get out. And I'm talking like the school bond, that's a 30-year program. We will probably have to we could set up a 10, which would just be phase one, and then we leave, or we could set up a 20-year. I guess we could set up a 30-year, but frankly, in 30 years, everybody sitting here will be retired or dead. So we have to think to the future. So with that, I agree we'll need a more extensive plan. We have the 5-year plan, and yes, he needs a funding mechanism.
Your plan doesn't, I will again counter, there's no money attached to that. It's what you're
That's
going
right.
to do.
You
So
were
it's not a
absolutely right.
plan.
So that's what he needs.
Point.
Agreed.
He almost, and remember, we're the ones really got to sell it to the populace. For example, Royal Oak just passed an extension of its road millage. I think it's 2.5 mils for 10 years. They just came off a 10-year. And 2.5 mils is nice. I looked at their plan, it's some devil. And I've looked at our plan, I looked at the AW plan. It's very comprehensive, very well done. But as my council member friend here, Mr. Shepherd said, we're probably gonna have to do triage. We gotta figure out what we can do in our lifetimes and what we cannot. So I think we're in agreement, set a priority of projects, and then we as a council will have to decide the funding mechanism. Go ahead.
You know what you just said that drove my point home?
Mm-hmm.
You looked at Royal Oak's plan. Where do our citizens go to look at our plan?
And you raise a fair point that we are going to need something that can be published. The AW is an excellent report. Now, not to toot my own horn, I have civil engineering training and field experience. So I look at that thing and I'm thinking, this is great stuff. But the average citizen doesn't want to read this. They just kind of want a layout of priorities. So, Mr. Raker, when do you think you can lay out, again, you can't lay out necessarily even the timing because that's driven by the money.
Sure.
Can you lay out a series of priorities? What you and your administration, AEW, view as the priorities of what will be attacked, and you can even put an estimated cost against that, each one.
And so maybe this is where the inclusion or development of a capital improvements committee, so that there's greater involvement from two of your colleagues here, and you're like, wow, okay, you're going to realize it's much more complicated than what we're dealing with, what you're seeing now, but that'll lend to the triaging of things. And AEW and DPW will be obviously intimately involved with that. I mean, and it's going to be based along the line of whether or not, what can we get, what is palatable to the taxpayers to support. I mean, I'm only at 3 mils because, I mean, our Headley override was, 3 and change?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think you start going beyond that, and I'm not sure, and it's about what can you convince them to support?
Yes, that'll be our jobs.
Yeah.
Right? So with that, I mean, there's several ways to approach this. You could do a 2 to 3 mil, but I'll tell you what, that's a slow boat to China to try to get things fixed. So 3 mils will get you about 1.3 million a year, roughly. Well, with Dreon at 5 million, that's 4 years, and that's everything for 4 years. My guess is the citizens are not that patient, and I'm guessing we had a couple council members who are also not that patient. So with that, we will probably have to develop a plan for a bond. I think we've got a line of credit perhaps for about 45 billion before it affects our credit rating. Is that
5 that's basically what we could borrow.
45 million? Okay. How will that impact our credit rating? I think right now we're AA minus.
Correct.
And what will that do if our citizens authorize such a bond?
I don't think it would be wise to mortgage the whole amount. I mean, that probably wouldn't be wise.
It may not be, but again, it all depends on how fast or slow we want to go on these projects, and that's going to depend on the revenue we get. And there are future opportunities. I mean, I'm droning on here. So
No, well, I'm saying you're in the weeds. We're way in the weeds. So we're talking about, I mean, if we're going to stay on topic, it's goals and objectives, right? And I think that through this conversation, we clearly identified that a goal and objective that we need accomplished is this plan for the roads, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
whatever. But those are the kinds of things, I mean, the whole point, this conversation started talking about the goals and objectives and what we felt was missing, specificity and sort of non-squishy objectives, if you will, right? And so, I mean, that goes back to the point that I think was being made, is that we need to redo some of these, because there are things that now that, 20 months are down the path, the door's not opening and closing all the time, we can focus on getting some real concrete stuff done. And that's what the goals and objectives should demonstrate. And that's why we think it's a good I think it's a good opportunity for us to go through and revise some of this stuff so that we can make a more solid, comprehensive path forward. That's all I'm saying.
I would agree. Some revision is in order as priorities change. I'm not going to think we should tear the document up and start from scratch. I think what we've got is a good starting point. Revise it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. I don't need to tear it to, start over from scratch. We can start with this. I don't mind, but I want to go through it, really, objective by objective and see what each of these things mean. Because a lot of them are, just words, they don't really mean anything to me. So.
Well, we can take out some of those items that are specific to infrastructure. I think they're covered in a couple of different goals, and maybe we could specifically pull those out and have it set aside for its own category.
I mean,
Right? I mean, if I look at here, from what we're talking about, and infrastructure, I think, is probably number one in our prioritization, right? So we've got under 4 and 5 in goal 4, right? We have secure grants to help fund city projects and capital expenses. Part 5, partner with neighboring jurisdictions such as the school board for Batter Water Main Project, Rochester Road Diet Ongoing Partnership School Clausen. And then item 4, under goal 5, identified lead lines and, or lead lines in all city private water lines. Right, again, this is an infrastructure, consistent strategic investment in water sewer infrastructure. Pull those out, put them in that as its own infrastructure category. And I think we've kind of hit at least the crux of the main meat of the discussion that we've had for infrastructure.
So pull the ones that currently exist in the document and put them under an infrastructure goal or priority, or, just for this year. It's just a matter of presentation.
Yeah.
And tweaking. There's some tweaking that needs to make it more specific and measurable.
Sure.
well, let me go back and say last week, and you put this in the thing. Last week, we said, we passed the resolution that said, city manager scheduled a workshop in the month of January to revise and set goals for the city per the schedules of the city council. And we approved that unanimously. So we're going to set up the workshop then and hash these out?
We did agree to it.
That's what we approved last month, I'm sorry.
Set a date, basically, is what we need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, set a date, we'll come back, we'll start working on these line by line. We'll rearrange things. Maybe we can do, put it up on the screen, do it dynamically. So we're all looking at the same thing.
We're not starting from scratch.
Not starting from scratch.
Good.
We're going to take these.
Move them around, tweak them.
I still,
Okay.
we have had a long discussion on this. I think this is a good start. Can we incorporate it into another regular scheduled meeting, or do we really need to have it as a unique item?
We could probably incorporate it into our first one in February, which is also going to be the audit presentation.
It's acceptable to me. We could, I know Troy has long done a lot of these workshops right before, right after the meetings. So I just want to get out of the, this room and do it together. So.
Have it be more conversational.
Yes.
When you get out of this room.
Well, we can do it in this room, but I'm just saying is.
Okay.
This
Out
is
of
very-
Robert's rules.
Yes.
Sure, a workshop.
Yeah, we want to do it in a workshop format.
So
Since we have time tonight, do we want to take on one of them tonight and get on the road to this, or do you guys need time to do?
Well, I thought maybe Mr. Raker would like some time to prepare for this after he, has.
This is what I've been directed by council to do, so that's what I have here. I have two people who are interested in moving some capital improvements out of there, and it sounds like your colleagues would coalesce around that idea, which I can also do and bring back to you for your consideration for the first meeting in February. But as far as what, I can't read your mind as necessarily what are your specific goals, objectives that you want to see on here, other than the progress towards what is already being worked on and seeing more output on that.
Well, I guess I don't want you to read my mind either. It'd be nice if we could put these on the screen and everybody can bring their laptop, see what the goals are, add a new goal, move the infrastructure ones, add some infrastructure direction, and then go from there.
Can we just, I don't want to necessarily limit it, but let's do the infrastructure as the most prioritization, or the number one priority, and see where it goes from there. I think we need to get that on the table. So if we focus on that, then we can talk about if we have some other opportunities on other prioritization, but let's focus on that.
Are you saying leave this alone and just move the few that are infrastructure related into their own category, create a new category for infrastructure, and then have a new
Establish the measurables and objectives for that.
So then I feel like we've kind of done that. Can we take what we've done tonight and turn it into that, and then throw it together and then talk about that later? I hate to leave this, I feel like we have an opportunity right now to do something. I hate to walk away from here, having had this conversation and feeling like there's a little momentum. I feel like everyone doesn't think we need to throw this out with the wash.
No.
And I don't think we want to do that. And if we start over again, I feel like we're going to start off with that conversation. I don't want to waste that time again, Mr. Raker.
So it's obvious, some of the priorities, I think, are off the top of your head. I think as we go through this, we're going to start realizing, like, all right, whether it's priority, goal, objective, it's semantics, but the priorities are the capital improvements, financial solvency. I would say those are probably the two biggest ones you want to make, but those, again, that goes kind of like it's implied. Those things are the things that should be being done. And to the best of our ability, we're doing that. So, I mean, I think we're gonna have the same.
Let me just say this. We all seem to agree that a capital improvement plan and a long infrastructure plan is all of our priorities, but it's not in these goals.
Well, I think it
doesn't
is.
have
We
to
just need to
be
pull it out
in that
and set it
format.
aside. And
We
disagree.
can elaborate the verbiage in there, whatever. However we want to do it, we'll get it on paper. I think we can do that.
So, and I propose, because we all agreed to have this workshop, right, in the month of January. We want to rewrite that document in a non-Robert Rules of Order, informal kind of, we can have a workshop. We can have up on the screen, we do it all the time in our jobs, right? You have a working document. Let's move it around. Let's cut and paste and move it around so that we can produce a document that we're all happy with. It's reorganized and prioritized and categorized, color-coded and three-part harmony. And then we can walk out of a workshop all on the same page, figuratively and literally, if we, actively create a document in a workshop.
That would be the goal, and whether or not it actually comes out.
Well, I mean, but I think that because to whoever's point, we're all kind of saying the same things, and Councilmember Shepherd, your idea of taking pieces out of here and throwing it into another bucket and clarifying it accomplishes the same thing. We're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but let's all, instead of walking away and, playing the telephone game of what everyone thought they said, let's all get together, let's all literally and figuratively get on the same page and make a document that we're all comfortable and excited about.
Let's do it now. Let's get on the infrastructure bandwagon now. Some very succinct plans have been stated. I think we could take care of that and cross this off our list.
We can't work on a document here, though. I'm talking
we
about in a
can.
workshop where we pull up a document and we can type it.
There, and
No,
it's here, and it's
not
just
editable.
simple.
That's not the,
It's not,
doesn't happen in the
we're not prepared
context
to
of a
edit
council
that
meeting.
at this point.
That's what I was saying. He's not ready here to edit this and to put this in workshop.
That's not what this intent was for. It was to brief these approved goals and objectives. And it's so maybe a happy compromise would be we carry on with the rest of this year for continuity, and to Mr. Binkowski's point, we start focusing on the priorities for, everything that you're talking about is happening anyway already. If you want to amend this, I mean, it's in there, we can extrapolate it out there and make it its own infrastructure, one,
Yeah.
like you said, the Batter, the Rochester Road, the ongoing partnership, all that stuff.
Yes, I'd like to amend this, and yes, we can restart your clock for when we want things done. We're not going to amend it and tell you've got 6 months to do it. Amend it and go for a year.
But it doesn't need
But
to be
that doesn't-
amended. It doesn't need to be amended. We need to add another category that will meet the requirements that you're looking for, which are specificity towards infrastructure, which would be really simple to do. And that way, we don't have to go through this every word, scratch every word out that people don't necessarily agree with, and then we can just have what you want to work towards, and then work towards that moving forward.
Adding a new category and moving infrastructure into it is amending it.
Agreed.
So that's what I want to do. And let's
think we agree.
do it in a workshop and do it.
Okay.
I don't mind if we do it the first meeting in February. Or immediately thereafter.
Are you suggesting
A workshop afterwards.
a workshop just to amend the document or to actually address infrastructure specifically?
Both.
Okay.
How will that be, how will we do that? Address infrastructure and amend the document? How is that going to be done?
Well, now we'll go back in time and say, this is why I wanted to get a facilitator. A facilitator could sit there, edit the document, talk to us about it, and get us to where we want to go. Either that or someone else has to do it. Maybe
That
the
was
city
a
clerk can do it, maybe the city
super-
manager, maybe I can do it.
Super
I don't
simple
care.
question, and wouldn't have required a facilitator to answer in any realm. So I was just curious, from your viewpoint, what would make that happen? What would happen that would satisfy you with both the financial, or the infrastructure portion and with the document portion? I'm looking to see what you're looking for specifically. That's what I'm looking for, because you're driving this right now. So I'm just trying to see what will make you happy in the process, so that we make sure we work towards that.
Well, what will make me happy is if we have a workshop and we amend this document to include infrastructure and other issues that I have. And I haven't even talked about some of the other issues. I mean, if you guys don't want to do them, then you'll tell me no and we won't do them. But it sounds like we all want to create a comprehensive infrastructure plan.
Let's discuss infrastructure at least.
Yeah, I would agree, but the question is, when you say there's other things you want to do in this evaluation,
Oh, sure, I got lots of things.
okay, well,
I do too.
Well, we can hear those too. It's not just me.
Right.
Well, I think the goal was to move along with this for this year, and then we were going to have another goal-setting workshop prior to budget, which then all of these new things, which are all probably very good, right? We are all for identifying the things that are going to make our community better and will make our administration stronger and give them the tools to do what they need to do to, make this place a more desirable place for people to be. I think we all agree with that. It's just a matter of how we get to that.
When's the budget due?
I
The
believe
budget
May.
approval? May? Okay, that's 5 months from now. I mean, if we don't do this now, if you say we're going to do this to make new goals before the budget, when was that? April?
February, maybe, not
No,
February,
the
early
last 2
March.
years
It wouldn't be May.
The last 2
Certainly wouldn't
years,
be May.
we did workshops in March. In the first year, we had, I think, 2, and the second year, we had, I think, 2 as well.
So the motion that was made and passed unanimously at the last council meeting was consideration of setting a workshop to revise and set new goals for the city in the month of January. We all agreed on that, on doing this workshop so that we can have a more comprehensive conversation about all of these. Why are we now saying we don't want to do that?
I don't think, well, I'll
let's do
speak
it,
for
yeah.
me, it's not that I don't want to, I just think we had time today, instead of circling, we could have actually accomplished something on these goals, and that's what I was trying to do, at least check something off of that list, or solidify the whole goal, which is infrastructure, which there's been much conversation about. If we could have something drafted with that, so that we have something moving forward for when we meet, as we all agreed we would meet, that's what I was thinking. So we're not starting from scratch, that's just what I wanted to do. is-
So we
We'll be
did-
starting from
we-
scratch.
We continued on that same item from which this motion still is there for having one for January, and this was brought back and to see, like, if we were going to get to some kind of resolution, if okay, yeah, we're going to pick a date and this is what it's going to be, or no, we're going to see this through, and then in February, March timeframe, we'll start working on the goals and objectives for the next fiscal year.
I mean, it's a month away. Why not just do it now? Why not just, let's set up the workshop for sometime this month and get going on it? Why wait until February?
We voted for that, we passed it. Check.
Right.
So should we just pick a date and be done?
Sure.
Do that, sounds great. I'm on board.
And we'll-
I don't have a calendar, I'm not picking.
I'm open. I've already resigned myself to any.
I'm out next week.
And I'm out of the country the 13th through the 20th, which you don't necessarily need me to do
Oh,
this.
we need
Oh,
you,
we need you.
nice try.
Listen, I wasn't trying to uphold the process, hold up the process.
How about this? It's a 5 Tuesday month, right? So the first and the third is the 2nd and the 16th, but we have the 30th, which is a Tuesday. And since we all save our
30th?
Tuesdays for council meetings, how about January 30th? In fact,
I like it.
I move that we schedule the workshop to revise and set new goals for the city for January 30th.
6:30 PM.
7
PM.
7 PM.
You'll be waiting for me at 6.
7 PM, January 30th.
Support.
Roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Thank you. We've just scheduled a workshop to discuss goals on January 30th at 7 PM. Something to look forward to. And now we'll move on to item number 10. Oh, no, that was number 10. We move on to item number 11, which is public comments for items not on the agenda. If you're here this evening and would like to speak to something, please join us at the podium. We'll allot you 3 minutes. Please state your name and your address.
Good evening. Char Larson with Clausen Chamber of Commerce. Happy New Year to everybody. And I hope everybody will work well together for the betterment of the city in this coming year. I think it's so important, not only for our business community, but for the residents. And hopefully, all of you can come tomorrow to our Coffee with the Chamber at Old Port Inn at 8:30. Immediately after, we will be having our Business of the Month. It's always a secret, so I can't tell you who it is, but it's very close in proximity, and I think it will be a great surprise. The other thing is, I want to let everybody know that on January 12th, which is a Friday, at 11:30, another of our chamber businesses will be lunch with the chamber at Shields in Troy, who has been a long-time member of ours, and that's at 11:30. And I want to let everybody know, and please, please pass this around, January 19th, Shields Restaurant, Euchre. The chamber not only supports our business, but we want to do things for the community. And one of the examples was the afterglow, as I call it, for the tree lighting. We want to involve the community as much as possible. So the Euchre Party is a great way to do this. And it is $35 if you play not only will you get your pizza and salad and breadsticks, but we have 2 different pastas. Of course, all the soft drinks are free. We have snacks, candy, everything like this. You don't need a partner. It's a fun night. It's not competitive. I just take the money. I don't know how to play, but we have gifts. We have a 52 card heavy, or not heavy, high-end liquor. You buy a card for $25 and you get an Igloo cooler plus $500 in liquor. So as soon as we sell all of those, we'll draw a winner. And we've got track of everybody's names and everything in the card. So it's going to be a really great event. And, you know, these are ways we earn our money because we only have 120 members at approximately $125. So anything we can do to raise money is great because otherwise we subsidize it with charity poker out in Waterford from 4 in the afternoon till 2 in the morning, 4 times a year, 4 days in a row. So please pass it around. We must have 40 people to guarantee the room. We're not charged, but we have to have 40 people there. So please, if you know anybody that plays euchre, or you play, or if you just want to come and eat, it's $25 and you can eat all you want. And usually there's food to take home. So please do that. And again, thank you very much. And one added thing. I couldn't believe how it was that the Church of Clawson sponsored the event on Christmas Day for people who were alone or didn't want to be with anybody. The people were so wonderful, greeted everybody. Paul Luce and his wife, Jessica Smith, who both own businesses here in Clawson, or they're residents, and they own businesses. Hers is Spotlight Interiors, and he's a realtor. They paid for everything. But what a wonderful, wonderful idea. And it all goes back to Little City with a big heart. So thank you again. And if you can support the chamber in any way, we appreciate it.
Thank you for all you do, Shar. You work really hard for the chamber. I appreciate you.
Okay.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Tracy Zania. I'm on Shenandoah Drive. Couple things. First, from today, is this workshop going to be public that we're going to do? Okay, that's great. I had a lot of trees fall today on my street in Shenandoah. So there was 5 trees that were taken down by the city, and I was just curious as to how this happened, what the conversations were. Hopefully, I can be involved later so that I can at least have some say or see what happens. I don't know how we were told. My mother happens to be on the same street as me. Both the tree at my house and hers were taken down. So it was a pretty tough day for us today. But I'm just trying to understand, where do I find information that this is going to happen? When is it going to happen? When are they going to take the stump out? Am I going to get a new tree that's going to replace that? So that's the, hoping I can get some insight today on that.
If you see me after the meeting, I'll give you my card and we'll
I mean,
exchange.
I would suspect that other people would be happy to know too, like in the community, if you can tell me now. That'd be great.
Specifically your trees, I'd have to talk to DPW.
I mean, I don't care if it's my trees or others. I'm just saying, where's the schedule? Where do I go to know that somebody just cut a tree down in front of my house? Like, is there a newsletter that goes out? Is there something where we're told about it?
Well, I mean, most of the tree, if I may, Mayor, most of the tree removals are driven by a hazardous tree. They've been deemed hazardous trees. I don't know if your trees specifically were deemed that.
So
I'd have to inquire.
the tree guy who I talked to said that 100 trees were coming down.
That's correct.
And that they
97.
were, 97, that's what he said. And that the primary reason was because of the sidewalk, so it wasn't actually because of the trees themselves. So he may have been misinformed as well,
Chances
but
are.
that's what I'm getting. But again, the question is, how do I get that information ahead of time so that my mom doesn't put pavers around her tree and spend $500 to do so? How do I know? What do we do with those? Where does my car go when you do this? I mean, I'm just looking for, I'm trying to understand, how is this brought to our attention?
You've pointed out a weakness in our
Okay, so
approach.
I didn't miss anything.
No, ma'am. No.
Okay, well, that's good and bad, I guess. All right, great. Well, I'll talk to you after then, just to get more info. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, and one thing now, am I going to get a new tree? Or is everyone getting new trees?
I'll have to find out from
Oh, you
DPW.
don't know
We do
yet?
have a tree planting program, but where they go and when they go, yet to be determined.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the discussion today on the goal setting. My name is Ben, and I live on Kenilworth. Just wanted to mention my thoughts about the goal setting workshop coming up. I think we all know what the goals of this city should be. Road improvements, infrastructure improvements. I know we have a huge amount of money in front of us. I think as part of this next workshop, we should understand as citizens what it's going to cost us. At the end of the day, we're probably the third or fourth highest taxed community in all of Oakland County. So as a citizen, I would like to understand how and why we should continue to be a premium taxpayer in the city of Clawson. So if we're going to go for a special millage to increase us from maybe the third or fourth most taxed community to the first, I would like to understand why, we need to be the first highest tax community in Oakland County and what benefits are going to come for the taxpayers for that. So obviously the roads would be great, but if we're going to be the number one tax community in all of Oakland County, I would like to make sure that we look at all options to make sure that we're reducing our cost in basic city management, whether it's the DPW, are they paid within the appropriate labor wages of the rest of the community? Can we source that out? Are there any other opportunities that we can reduce our cost? Because if we're going to be the number one taxed community in all of Oakland County, we better be sure that we're looking at every single opportunity to reduce costs before we do that. So that's my comment today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Okay, I'm going to close public comments and then move on to the city clerk's report. Michelle.
The only thing I have tonight is that we're preparing for the presidential primary coming up on February 27th. We mailed out the ballot selection cards last Thursday. People are starting to see them in the mail if they are on the permanent ballot list. The reason for those cards is because they have to determine what ballot style that they want for the presidential primary, which means you have to choose a Democratic ballot or a Republican ballot. And we won't know what to send you unless you return those cards. So it's more or less information. Return the cards if you choose to vote in the February election. Otherwise, we won't know what to send you. The other thing was absentee ballot applications will be going out soon. And that I wanted to let the council know that we are moving forward with, we've posted the deputy clerk's position it's through our applicant pool, and it is available on the city's website under jobs. So anybody interested, please go there and complete an application. And we're holding that open till the end of January.
Nice. Thank you. Mr. Newshine, city attorney's report?
Yes, ma'am. Just one item. If council will recall, a few years ago, we received a subpoena on a matter that was being litigated in Wayne County Circuit Court. It was a case called General Mill Supply versus the Great Lake Water Authority. It caused some consternation on council at the time because there was something that maybe we would be dragged onto that lawsuit. We received a communication recently that that matter has been settled. We are one of the member communities, so we may even get a couple of bucks, actually. So I'll give you more information as we acquire more information, but other than that, I have nothing further. Happy to answer any questions.
That was good. Any questions? City manager's report, Mr. Raker.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder that on Monday, January 8th at 7 p.m. in the High School Media Center, there will be a joint meeting between the Clawson Public Schools Board of Trustees and our City Council. Also, we have scheduled our first meeting of the City Ordinance Review Committee, which will meet on Tuesday, January 9th at 6 p.m. in the City Hall Community Room. Christmas trees will be picked up throughout the month of January. And Happy New Year. And pending any questions, that's my brief.
I have a question. Mr. Nushai, in the middle of the meeting, said that there was some audio trouble, and last council meeting when I left, I got text messages, when I looked at my text messages when I left, that there was audio trouble. What can citizens who are watching at home do? Is there a number, or what should they do to, I can't answer texts when I'm sitting up here. How can they send up a red flag as the meeting is starting that they can't hear? What's your guidance on that?
I will have to come back and provide guidance on that, because.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe on I don't know, you can probably get something on the website or whatever, or the YouTube page, I don't know if there's an opportunity to put a number or something like that, but it's happened last time, it happened this time, and so, yeah, if we can just have a number they can call, or road flare or something, whatever. Cool.
Okay, let's go to city council comments. Councilmember Shepherd.
So the committee for, is it district mapping? And the fact that that went to appeals, I'm trying to remember what the process was, is basically what the maps were thrown out, or there were some districts that were forced to redraw. So apparently we are one of the affected districts. So in that, what is going to be the cost impact of that? How much time is going to be needed in order to, when it's finally settled? Because there's not going to be much time between whenever that's, because that has to be this year, from my understanding.
There was a deadline. I was thinking it was
today.
sooner than later. There was,
Well, they decided that they weren't going to, there were members that withdrew, so they didn't have a quorum to appeal it, right? And so that's now moving forward, so redrawing is going to be taking place.
I have not been contacted directly, but two of our districts are involved in that redraw. Mr. Raker and I have had discussion about this. There is a possibility that we won't be changed. If they redraw, maybe our lines won't change.
Okay.
But if they are, then that means new ID cards for those districts. And that means, there's a cost to doing that mailing and printing those cards. Right now, we have four of our precincts are in one district and one precinct in another, which they're both being affected somehow. So if the lines are redrawn to the point of changing that, then we have to notify the voters. That's required. So there will be a cost. But I have not been told yet where that stands. No one's contacted me directly.
Okay.
I read the article after you talked to Mr. Raker, and I researched it a little bit, but I have not been contacted to say which way it's going to go.
Okay, it's just unfortunate that we have to go through that for a community our size. The other concern I had was regarding the closure of Rite Aid and the ability of people who have prescriptions through that facility, and what we have for the availability of pharmacies in our area, and with anybody that was inconvenienced, and what assistance they may have been provided. That kind of caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting ours to be affected from the initial announcement of their bankruptcy, that they had a number of Rite Aids that closed in our area. And just, it was one of those things that occurred to me, and like, well, what if somebody has a prescription here, do they now have to go 5 miles to another Rite Aid, or who does that? And what does that do for us as a community in regards to availability for those types of services? Obviously, it's not us, but at the same time, we have some people who may be adversely affected.
I will look into it and provide some information in my Friday feedback.
And as far as that space itself, is that something that has anybody come forward? That's a prime location.
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
Okay.
So
That's
I
all I
can
have. Yeah.
say Rite Aid had a sign on the door. I was in there the day they got the bad news. They were not very nice to their employees, I'll just say that. They didn't give them a lot of notice, but apparently all the prescriptions were transferred to Kroger, I think. But I think there's a note on the door that'll tell you where to go. And
Go.
they just went through another round of shutdowns today, announcing more. So Rite Aids are not long for our area, I guess, which is sad. They had the best people in there. I mean, our CVS people are great too, but I would always make the decision to cross the street or not cross the street. But I really, the people in Rite Aid were amazing, so I wish.
Yeah, I miss-
Hope they're doing all well.
Yeah, I echo
Right.
that. I had some good relationships with some of the people that were in there.
Yeah. Councilmember Anderson? No comment. Councilmember Binkowski?
I just wanted to note that our City Ordinance Review Committee, which is made up of myself and Mayor Milan and the city attorney, will start meeting next Tuesday at 6 PM. And I just wanted to double check with the city manager that that's been posted and everything's.
It will be posted.
copacetic. Okay. Other than that, no other comments. Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Moffett?
Happy New Year, that's all I got.
Yes, I'm just going to say Happy New Year and thanks for a productive meeting, everyone. And I will call for a motion to dismiss.
Madam Mayor, I move that we dismiss this meeting, adjourn this meeting.
Adjourn, dismiss, go home, whatever you want to call it. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Binkowski,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned. And did the lights just change in here?